So, whipping as a spiritual practice, what does that mean? Well, let's first get back to the history of the whole thing. We know that whips and canes, sticks and ropes have been used to alter consciousness throughout the ages, and they have been used so as to create physical suffering. Usually this is done in sympathy, in the sort of practices that I'm talking about. So this whipping, flogging is done in sympathy with religious figures who have suffered. For instance, the medieval monks of Europe, they whipped themselves until they bled for their sins and for the sins of mankind. And they believed that through suffering, similar to the way Christ has suffered, they'd be able to, alleviate the suffering in the world. Punishing themselves for their sins would be pleasing in the eyes of God. In ancient Greece, in these so-called mystery cults, whipping and flogging was used in a way that we do not know, but we do know that they did this as some way of an initiation into the mystery, or at least into the cult. In popular culture, whipping is often used as a harsh and brutal punishment. It is obviously very sexy. People get whipped. They're always naked. They're beautiful people, usually young girls. But also, when they're men, they're like these massive, beautiful, muscular persons. And that combination of cruelty and sensuality is obviously very attractive. An intense interaction with someone who is sexy and beautiful is considered by most people to be pleasurable and something to strive for. It is in our, not maybe the violence is not so much in our nature, although probably it is, but this lust for physical encounters is definitely what people want. That is nature, and because humans are these intricate beings, we have many variations on that. There are many ways in which people want to interact with one another, and some of them are violent, some of them are extremely sweet and pleasant, and that is also, that whole spectrum. That is what makes human interaction, human sexual interaction, interesting and attractive. And it's just, I believe it is just nature working through us. We don't really have a choice whether we like sex or not, or if we want to participate in this sexual circus. It is just nature acting through us, and at best we can try to regulate our behavior as we should do at all times with everything we do. And it's not very wise to go out into the world and say, well, I'm this force of nature, and then act as if you are a blunt instrument. What you want in life, what all of us need in life, is insight into the reality we're living. When thinking of whipping, flogging, probably, there's the religious whipping on the one hand, there is BDSM on the other hand. There are many movies and books. A couple of years ago, the famous book 50 Shades of Grey was all about whipping and flogging. And thinking back over the past couple of decades, there have, of course, been lots of films. Think of the famous The History of O, L'Histoire d'O, in which, again, a young girl is given to a cruel master and is regularly flogged and whipped. That is not a meditative practice. That is not a spiritual practice. It can be sensual, it can be rewarding, but it's not what I'm talking about. What I'm interested in is whipping, flogging, as a spiritual practice, I once, years ago, heard someone say we are not human beings on a spiritual journey. We are spiritual beings on a human journey. And I thought, yeah, there is truth in that. Because as a person, and I believe we all have this sense that somehow what we see around us, the material world, is not the real world. There is something that eludes us. What we see is merely what we see. It is not all there is. When you close your eyes, there's a greater sense of reality. And then you open your eyes and you see what you see, and you know that is not all there is. There is something inside of you that is connected to something outside of you, and that something outside of you is not something that you see, but you feel it. You know it is there. This greater reality is there before we are there. It's not, you could call it the life force, for want of a better word. And what exactly is the life force? Well, think of it as the greater reality, as the supreme mind materializing. What is the supreme mind? Well, let's say the supreme mind is the all. And so the consciousness of this world is also contained in the supreme mind. It is there. It is all there. It is there before people arrive, well, before any of us as individuals arrive. And when we disappear again, when we leave this world as individuals, it is still there. The body changes. It returns to the earth. But the thing that created life, the thing that was life, that was consciousness, materialized in this individual person, that goes on. And maybe this changing of what you could say the universal consciousness into a person, so the all concentrating itself into life manifesting in you, in me, that is a fantastic act that has meaning. It is meant to help the supreme mind understand something. It is consciousness manifesting in a human being so as to learn about the nature of consciousness. And so the body, the fact that we do have a body, is an important thing. It is an instrument with which to examine reality. And then I'm thinking of course, the reality that is there, that you see, that you think of as the material world, and also the reality that is invisible. Because we have a body, we can examine that. We can examine the material world. You can hold things in your hand. You can touch other beings. You can touch other people, and you can experience the immensity of the invisible world. Because most of what is here, most of what is shaping our reality, is in fact invisible to us at all times. For instance, when I sit here and I talk, I am in a room. What I directly experience, what I directly see, what I can touch is this room. I can't touch the other side of the walls. I can't see what is going on outside. But it is there. The other side of the walls is there. Something is going on outside. And I believe that influences me. It influences you. But imagine someone outside being very happy. Does that have an influence on your life? Does the happiness from this person travel all the way back to me? The answer to that, I think, is yes, it does. And so when you're interacting with someone, specifically in an intense emotional way, the emotions from the other person, they are invisible, but they're there, and they do influence you. Now, to get back to whipping as a spiritual practice, I think the whipping as a spiritual practice brings with it the possibility to manipulate the body in such a way that a spiritual experience is made possible. The whipping changes your consciousness. It changes the consciousness of the person whipping. It changes the consciousness of the person being whipped. And that can be a highly emotional experience. It can be a very pleasant experience. It can be a very unpleasant experience. And most importantly, it can be an experience that makes the mind expand. Suddenly you're no longer merely this body in this visible reality. Because of the whipping, and I'm not talking about creating great pain and hurting people and creating a bloody mess. What I'm talking about is a very specific manner in which to manipulate the body almost gently, so that there is pain that is not experienced as pain. It is experienced as a kind of pleasure that is beyond the merely physical pleasure. In whipping, there is energy. The sheer energy, of course, of the whip. It's actually a heavy thing. It is material. It is leather or ropes or wood beating on flesh, which has an impact, which is energy. There's the energy of the one person flogging the other person. That is also, sheer energy coming from me to you. And then there is that mysterious body of energy that is created between people, and then becomes a part, you feel it become a part of something greater that is surrounding you, an energy field that already was there, but now you're creating this thing between people, and you can connect to the energy field that is the invisible reality, and then the energy of that invisible reality expands, and your mind is a part of that, and your mind expands, and your body has this surge of pleasure and awareness and a sense of expanding way beyond your physical realms. And then you connect to the Supreme Mind. And that is what we're looking for in whipping as a spiritual practice, to deepen your spiritual practice, to learn not just how to be someone else or something else, not just to connect to something else that you cannot connect to otherwise. What you learn at the best of times is how to be. That is why whipping as a spiritual practice really is a great idea.